Imagine this. It's 1995. A man named MacArthur Wheeler walks into a Pittsburgh bank, brazenly robs it, then saunters out, convinced he's invisible. Why? Because he'd covered his face in lemon juice, believing it would make him invisible to security cameras, just like invisible ink. Unsurprisingly, he was arrested hours later. When police showed him the surveillance footage, Wheeler was genuinely dumbfounded, muttering, "But I wore the juice." His utter bewilderment sparked an idea in two curious minds at Cornell University, David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger. How could someone be so incredibly wrong about their own competence, yet so utterly convinced they were right? This wasn't just delusion. It was a profound failure of self-assessment. That simple, bizarre crime laid the foundation for what we now call the Dunning-Kruger Effect. So, how did we get to the Dunning-Kruger Effect? Well, it all started back in 1995 with a truly bizarre bank robbery. This incident sparked the curiosity of two brilliant social psychologists, David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger. They were both at Cornell University when, in 1999, they published their groundbreaking paper, Unskilled and Unaware of It, How Difficulties in Recognizing One's Own Incompetence Lead to Inflated Self-Assessments. Quite a mouthful, but it completely changed how we think about self-perception. What they found was fascinating. People with low ability in something consistently overestimated their skills. Imagine scoring in the bottom 12th percentile on a test, but genuinely believing you're in the 62nd. That's a huge disconnect, isn't it? But it didn't stop there. Conversely, those with high competence often underestimated themselves. Top humor scorers, for instance, actually believed they were less correct than they truly were, often assuming others were just as knowledgeable. It's almost the opposite problem. This incredible insight eventually became known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect, formally coined in 2002. It's since been widely studied and debated, but its core truth about our self-perception, or lack thereof, remains profoundly relevant. So, we've talked about how the Dunning-Kruger effect came to be, but what does it actually look like when we peer into the numbers? It's a real paradox, a twist in how we see ourselves versus reality. The original study really drilled down into this. Imagine students taking tests on things like logical reasoning or even humor. Those in the bottom 25%, the low performers, they wildly overestimated themselves. Someone actually scoring in the 12th percentile, meaning they performed worse than 88% of their peers, often thought they were doing better than 62% of everyone else. That's a huge gap, isn't it? A nearly 50 percentage point difference in self-perception versus reality. But it's not just the struggling ones who get it wrong. The effect works in reverse for the highly competent too. The top performers, the true experts, often fall into a different kind of trap. When the top humor scorers looked at their results, they actually underestimated how well they did. They thought they scored around 72% correct, when in reality, they were hitting over 86%. It's like they couldn't imagine others weren't just as smart. So you've got this fascinating spectrum, the less skilled thinking they're hot stuff, and the highly skilled quietly assuming everyone else is just as good as them. It's a fundamental paradox of human perception. We've all heard about the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it's easy to dismiss it with a chuckle. But there's a lot more to it than just ignorant bliss. We're actually diving into some pretty deep academic waters here. The biggest myth? That Dunning-Kruger just means stupid people don't know they're stupid. That's not it at all. It's much more nuanced. It's domain-specific, not about general intelligence. It's about lacking the metacognitive ability to recognize your own incompetence in a particular area. You might be brilliant at physics, but terrible at cooking, and just not realize how bad your soufflé actually is. And here's where it gets really interesting. Some recent research actually challenges the idea of universal overestimation. They found that around 80% of unskilled participants are surprisingly accurate in their self-assessments. This brings us to a major academic debate. Is the Dunning-Kruger effect a true cognitive bias rooted in how our brains fundamentally work? Or is it more of a statistical artifact? The statistical artifact argument often points to things like regression to the mean. Basically, if you randomly pick people, those at the extremes will naturally trend towards the average on subsequent tests, which can look like a bias. So it's not as simple as we might think. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a fascinating area, constantly under scrutiny, reminding us that understanding ourselves and our limitations is a complex, ever-evolving mirror. After its initial publication in '99, the Dunning-Kruger effect wasn't just a fleeting concept. It's been rigorously studied, replicated across countless domains, from medical diagnosis to firearm safety, but it hasn't been without its challengers. Academics have debated if it's a true cognitive bias or maybe just a statistical quirk, fueling an ongoing, fascinating discussion. It's easy to misunderstand, to think it simply means stupid people don't know they're stupid, but that's a myth. It's truly domain-specific, about a lack of metacognitive skill in one particular area. You might be brilliant in physics, but terrible at judging your own cooking. And recent research even suggests around 80% of unskilled people are actually pretty accurate, challenging the idea of universal overestimation. Still, the core insights of Dunning and Kruger have stood the test of time. In 2023, David Dunning and Justin Kruger were rightly honored with the prestigious Grawemeyer Award in psychology. It's a testament to the enduring impact of their work, revealing how crucial self-awareness is in all our lives.